Hello, hello. Welcome to Tech Ascent, the podcast where we dive into the trends, strategies, and success stories that are reshaping the tech landscape as we know it today. I'm your host, Oliver Clingain. I'm also the founder of Ascension, the premier biz development partner within tech. And today we've got a great guest joining us, joined by Igor Krasnykh, the founder and CEO of TechNWeb. Igor, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Oliver. It's good to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you on. Would you mind telling the audience a little bit about what you do with TechNWeb and a little bit about yourself as well?
All right, I'll give you the kind of a 30-second spiel. Born and raised in Russia, moved to US in 97. Today I run or own two companies. One of them is TechNWeb. I went through a brand split last year. My company split into two. TechNWeb is a business consultancy. We work with wholesalers, distributors, resellers, manufacturers. We help them make more money, spend less money, and help them prep for an exit whenever the time comes. And the second business is called idealdata.io. It's an integration platform. Obviously, all new startups and techs have AI flavors in them. That's an AI integration platform geared for merchants and helps them connect data from various different systems and access that data in a meaningful format.
Very cool, very cool. And prior to your brand split, what made you want to start your first company or start this company? I'm not sure if it's your first.
All right, so let's peel the onion on that one. I I feel like I was lucky that I found my calling very early in my life journey. When I was still kind of towards the end of high school, I started to spend more time with internet websites. Always kind of quickly developed a passion for it, and just found it very fascinating that somebody could build something that you can access on your computer, and that something that you access can be accessed by anybody in the world who also have a computer and internet access. That just kind of blew my mind, got me super excited, fueled me with energy, and from there I started to kind of learning how to build a website. What is the website? Back then, there were no what do you call them, page builders. It was all kind of like I had to view source, kind of look at all those tags and try to make sense of what each tag does. So I like basically had to reverse engineer a lot of it. There was no documentation online back then, or at least no documentation that I had access to. So
No YouTube how-tos.
yeah, no YouTube how-tos, nothing like that. So I basically saw a page that my dad shared with me. That's how he said, like, look, one of our colleagues at work built this out. And he sent me the link to it. He opened it in a browser. And then from there, I just kind of looked at that source code and started to play with it, copied it, try to modify it, kind of looked at how it looks like, spent some time on trying to figure out how can I make it different, what other things I can do from there. And everything kind of spiraled from there. And as after high school, I did some community college, and while I was in the community college, kind of came across a buddy of mine him and I decided to start our web dev shop, because he was more on like technical sales side of things. I was an engineer. I was kind of shooting for computer science when I went to community college. And that's where kind of first company was started. We started building websites, started to look for businesses who needed help getting online. And then there was a wild journey from there. I don't know if you want me to go into it right now, happy to, but let me know if I should stop.
No, I'm interested. See where it goes. You can keep it high level. You can
All
keep
right.
it high level. But
High level, my God. All right, so high level. So him and I started a company, and things were going well. And then he had his first kid, then second kid, and he was just like, my God, I just don't have time to do this, and kind of focus on the business. Forgot exactly how he phrased it, but he was like, look, I need to take a small break. I need to focus on my family. So I was kind of left all by myself. And I said, all right, so since I know the technical side of things. I know design a little bit. Um, can I wanted to get a part-time job just in case if sales doesn't work out for me. And when I got that part-time job, it sucked me into the corporate world. So I kind of left the company as is. We like didn't really seek or pursue prospects or leads at that point. Corporate world took over, and I had pleasure working for a lot of big companies. Berkshire, one of them was Berkshire Hathaway Company. Then I worked for eBay, PayPal, Magento. Then spent time working for General Motors. Then from there, spent time in healthcare industry. But as I kind of progressed through that journey, I always had a desire to build something of my own, build a product. So throughout that corporate ladder, I've had, I don't want to say, maybe like a dozen of different ideas. And all those ideas were building a product, an online product, a website, or some sort of online functionality. And since I was a technical geek, so to speak, with technical knowledge, I was able to build out prototypes, make them work, and majority of those prototypes I was able to build, and I was like, all right, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody knew about it, and I consistently was hitting that wall of marketing, go into market, sales. On some of my later kind of startup ideas, I even partnered with some of my other friends who said, yes, we'll help with sales, but it just happened so that everything was falling on its face, meaning people got bored or they kind of didn't like that there was no money initially, things like that. So long story short, at one point, I also built a product, and it was an integration product connecting two systems together. I was between corporate jobs back then, and I said, well, let me just build this out because that similar solution was a friend of mine told me, like, look, the product that you built is decent enough and it's pretty cool. It's highly configurable. See if you can productize it. And between jobs, I kind of spend the time massaging it, packaging it together, listed it on the marketplace for one of the e-commerce platforms. And, my thought at that time was, I'll just sell one or a couple of these extensions and I'll be happy because then I'll be going back to the corporate world. And kind of magic happened at that time. What ended up happening is within the first month, I made two sales. So two people, two separate businesses bought that product that I built. And I want to talk about pricing for the product maybe a little bit later. But when I saw two sales take place, I reached out to both of those businesses. And it had just happened to be that both of the times the business owners, like it was a small business that bought that extension, and the business owner was the one who bought it. I started to have conversations with them. I started to follow up and kind of getting feedback about the product. Is everything working well? Are there any new features that you would like? And just kind of embedded that process into my journey early on, which helped me do several things. One was establish that connection to the decision maker. Two, learn more about their business and how they're using my product. And that enabled me to grow and enhance the product further, which basically transitioned into, over time, more and more customers were coming to me, and so on and so forth. So, and at that time, I was basically juggling that, and I started a new job. So it was a corporate job, so I had to balance both. It was kind of, what is it? You call it like standard 9 to 5 at the office doing corporate stuff, and then evenings and weekends, it's side gigs, right? Like that side hustle. You continue
the 9 to 5 and then the 5 to 9.
Yes, and I think it was Alex Ramosi that like I saw he did a post recently where he said like your schedule should look like this: your 5 to 9, you're working on your dream; 9 to 5 is your job, and then 5 to whatever you're working on your dream. So that was my schedule basically.
Mm-hmm.
And it was my schedule until I reached a point where it was difficult for me to do both. And at that time, that was my first milestone into that journey where I had to look to bring somebody else on board to help me and just kind of start delegating technical stuff. At that point, I basically hired my first developer, ended up going through maybe 2, 3 hires before I found my kind of employee number one. Or I shouldn't say that because technically I was employee number one. So employee number two, and went through kind of growing pains as a founder or an entrepreneur, because when you build your product, this is your baby. And letting somebody else starting to also take care of your baby is difficult, especially if they haven't built it with you, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that was I was a perfectionist back then, and it was maybe that's another topic for or a topic for another conversation, but it was quite interesting experience to go through and just kind of learning how to let go of that stuff. And kind of to bring us back to the finish line on your question, so that's kind of how my business started. It started with a product. It was growing, and around 2019, I decided to step away from the corporate world, and just kind of like a lot of things happened. So I was thinking about stepping away from the corporate world early in 2019. Closer to 2019, the opportunity came up that yes, this is the time to do it. And I decided to kind of give it my 100% or 110%, whatever you want to call it, right? When you start a business, it was scary. But I'm glad I did it because, as you know, early in 2020, COVID started, so everyone needed a website, and it just kind of helped me add that rocket fuel into the fire that I was building back then.
Mm-hmm.
And things kind of just exploded from there. So, and company started to grow. We started to do more professional services. Maybe another topic, the topic for another conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But over time, I ended up basically with a company that had multiple products under its umbrella, and we also were doing professional services, and that's kind of when we did the split. So that's my long-winded answer for you. Sorry, it's not high level.
No, very cool, very cool. And in 2019, there's obviously a lot of entrepreneurs out there right now that are probably doing the 9 to 5 as well as the 5 to 9, building their business. What allowed you in 2019 to go all in on the business?
Several things. So at that time, I had a small team, and we're talking about 2 people basically that were supporting a product, and or the product, well, all the products basically. I think I had like a handful of products at that point. There was revenue from customers. The point that I think will resonate with a lot of the founders who might be in a similar situation, when you're at that stage, you're probably not thinking about taking money out of the business for yourself. And I was in that situation because everything that the business was earning, the way that I priced everything originally, was enough for me to keep the lights on, but not enough to pay me. And that was the scary part. And on the flip side, as I was exiting from the corporate world, I was able to save enough to just basically say, all right, like I have enough to kind of get by for a few months, right, without needing a paycheck. And let me just see how, if me taking this risk, basically jumping all in instead of like just dipping a toe in the water, let me just jump all in and
Mm-hmm.
see if I can swim out. And that was the best decision I've made.
Very nice, very nice. And along that journey, you also mentioned you had to kind of learn the art of delegation.
Mhm.
What was there a tipping point? Was there a mindset shift that kind of allowed you to get better at that? How'd you navigate that journey?
Uh, that's a good question. So I'll probably summarize it that way. For me, it was very difficult to overcome that delegation, the initial delegation. After you kind of learn how to delegate it one time, you start to develop that muscle, and it just gets easier and easier, and you start to figure out when is the right time to delegate. And I want to remind me if I forget. The when is very important. But to jump back to your question, I went through some time where I was basically nitpicking at every single line of code, if you will. Like if something wasn't coded to my standard, my personal standard, or when I didn't understand something, I questioned it. We had kind of, I call them healthy debates. If you ask my employee number two, maybe it wasn't healthy. I don't know, but we're still like, he's still here, so that's a good sign. We've figured out a way to work together, and all of those early kind of debates taught me a big lesson, which also in parallel was mentioned to me by a couple of my mentors. And the way to summarize it is, if you are looking to find a clone of yourself, it's going to take you forever and it's very difficult to find. Or if you want to find somebody who can do your job that you're already doing as a business owner, good luck with that, because those people probably starting their own businesses. And you need to shift your mindset to and be comfortable with that whatever job you want that you need help with delegating, or the job that you need to delegate, it might be two or more people that will need to be hired to take on that effort, and keeping that job and try to simplify it so that whenever you hire somebody, they have good training and very simple training to get started, because it's just hitting the ground running is where the problem is, right? You need them to get onboarded and start being productive very quickly. So if there's no such documentation, your training should let them, or you should be in a position where you bring somebody on board, you spend maybe a day or two, tell them, like show them all the documentation or tell them what needs to be done, maybe even a simple checklist of things to do and what not to do. But they should be up and running within like a couple of days. That's what I'm thinking. Mm-hmm. Anything longer than that is basically you're going to be wasting money and potentially wasting money. There's a larger risk. I don't want to say wasting money, but there's a larger risk that you could be wasting money if it will take you more than 2 days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the saying basically is, look, there's multiple people, right? And there's another important piece that when somebody else starts, or when you hire somebody to delegate some of your work activities to, you have to be comfortable with 70% quality or good enough. Is that 70% good enough? Mm-hmm. Because if you shoot for 100, again, like you might burn the other person out, or depending on your leadership style, it might backfire. So, right, like I always use that rule of 70 and just say, is that 70% good enough? If the answer is no, then coaching, etc., etc. If it's 70% good enough, you might even roll it out if there's no kind of production impact or financial impact from this feature that is rolled out, but it's not 100%. But its speed to market is important, and validation of those ideas is very important. So 70% good enough, launch it, test it, get validation. If this feature is needed, you spend the additional time to get it to 100% after.
Nice. And you mentioned there the note of knowing when to delegate. Does that fall into that category? Or is that...
So when to delegate, and I feel like I stepped on this rake several times through my entrepreneurial career and got hit in the forehead with that rake. There were times when I felt like, my God, I don't want to do job X. And again, it could be like, if you're not good at sales, you're saying, look, I'm just going to hire somebody for sales. And I've made that mistake. So my background is technical. Back then, also did not know much about sales or marketing, and I just said, all right, I'll just hire for it. Interviewed, and big mistake that I made, I was just like, when the new person joined, I was like, all right, go sell. Like, I'm out. Ask me questions, right? Huge mistake. And I ended up losing quite a lot of money because of that. So, and that was a very expensive lesson that I learned. And as an entrepreneur, often you got to figure out how to do the job that you want somebody to do. And don't expect them to figure it out because it might be difficult. It's your baby, your business. You probably know about it more than the new person will. And if you walk that path, if you figured out how to, let's say we've been talking about sales, if you know how to sell your product, or if the product sells on itself, whatever that journey for the customer is through your pipeline, right, from prospect to a customer, if it's documented, diagrammed, whatever, then you can bring somebody on and say, look, here's your standard framework. Go through these steps. If you go through these steps, I've had success in the past. And from there, it gives them basic foundation, right, to kind of where to start, but don't put boundaries around them and just say, like, from there, be creative. Go, like, try to optimize it, maximize it, get the biggest ROI, improve sales, conversions, and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So when is very important.
Yeah, no, 100%. And would you say, you being a technical founder, was sales and marketing one of the toughest things for you to learn?
Um, those two things were items that I back then did not want to learn because those things did not give me energy. I got energy from other activities, and my superpower back then was different. But as I struggled with marketing and sales and finding the right people to help me in right teams, I had to learn it. So I basically spent, still do, but I'm reading sales books, I'm listening to sales podcasts, I'm reading marketing books, creating my own framework of how things need to work, things that used to work 5 years ago. Some of them don't even work today, right? But that experience is very helpful. So yes, I've learned all of that. Now I'm kind of, it's funny because after you figured out how to do something, now that gives me energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how that happens.
Yeah, yeah. There's always that learning curve of you got to get over the first hill at least, and then you can start to have a little bit of fun with it.
Yes, and to piggyback off of that, to all the founders and business owners, entrepreneurs, sales and marketing is probably one of the toughest things that you have to solve for on your own. It's unfortunate, it's the ugly truth, but that's what it is. And a lot of the business owners or startups and founders that I talk to, especially the ones that are early on, they have to know how to sell. And ideally, you want to create a product like ChatGPT. It's like everyone wants to use it. You don't even need to sell it, right? Like the community sells it for you. That's the place that you want to be at. And if until you get to the point where everyone wants it, like your market share, right? If market share is big enough, great, awesome. If you're targeting a niche, then there's a larger effort for you to figure out how to pitch it, how to pitch that business value, how do you articulate the business value, how do you connect that business value to the dollar amount, right? Because ultimately, what helps you sell probably are addressing the gaps in business needs. And what helps you close, sales and closing, two different things. And what helps you close is the logic, right? Like how do you build up enough value in your product or a service where the other person feels silly not giving you their credit card or sending you that money in exchange for the value that you're providing, right? Like that's the golden rule, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And Igor, if you could tell kind of a entrepreneur, founder, you could either give them one piece of just pure sales advice, or I know you mentioned you're reading some books, listen to some podcasts. If you could point them in the direction of something to kind of enhance those skills, where would you point them?
I'll tell you kind of about my journey. So, as a technical founder, the very first book that I found that kind of pushed me into that trajectory was, believe it or not, was the 10x rule by Grant Cardone. If you're familiar with about him. So that book just gave me a lot of fuel and energy to keep trying, keep putting up, 10x effort every day, like, right? And from there, I started to seek out other books. So other books, negotiation books. Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss is a good one.
That's like right up there somewhere.
Yeah, well, you don't see my shelf, but yeah, I got a bunch of them here too. Actually, hold on, give me 1 second. All my best books right here. So, can't see it. Oh my God, Build to Sell. Sorry. Build to Sell is a good one. Again, it's not about trying to cast a wide net. It's figuring out your niche, laser focusing, and building that value and just building that repeatable engine. Then Russell Brunson, Traffic Secrets. Oh my God, I'm just gonna name the books because anyways.
No, all good. I got .com secrets somewhere behind me.
Yeah, so he has 3 books. I read all 3. Traffic Secrets is a good one. And there was another book that I'm just blanking out on. It's actually not Traffic Secrets, actually. Never mind. Yes, Traffic Secrets. What the CEO Wants You to Know by Ram Charn is a good book, if you haven't read it.
I haven't heard of that one. That sounds like a good one, though.
And my favorite one, so if you're in a services business, my favorite book is The Value-Based Fees by Ellen Weiss, Weiss.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yes. Yeah. So here's my 10x and Never Split the Difference.
Yeah. No, those are good ones. I got a few there that I'll add to the list. One that I've read recently that's kind of about, I come from a background in sports, so one that I read recently is kind of a bit about mindset. It's Relentless by Tim Grover. He was the trainer for Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, just talking about what level of, well, air quotes, insanity you need to be the best of the best. And so that was a really good one for me.
What was the author? So you said Relentless?
Tim Grover.
Tim Grover. Okay. I'm going to write it down. Awesome.
Yeah, no, this one right here. It's in reverse, but
sweet.
So from good to great to unstoppable is
that's awesome.
the tagline. So yeah, that's been a good one.
And I'm gonna throw another one. I can't believe I don't have it here with me. I think one of my kids probably took it away. It's 0 to 1. If you haven't read that one.
Yeah, that's back there too.
That's back there.
We've got similar taste in books.
No, yes, it's look, it's great, and starting a business isn't easy. So it's very common misconception because I kind of can relate to it when I was in the corporate world. Some of the people who were talking about starting their own businesses and stuff like that, like, there's a misconception that, oh my God, I just leave my corporate world and I'm gonna build this new product. It's amazing. I love it. Like, I asked a couple of people and they like it too. I'm gonna go and make millions out of it. It sounds so simple and amazing, but in the reality, it's never like that, right? Like, there might be some exceptions where, it's accidental type of products sometimes that I call them. But the reality when you're starting and maybe that's what we talked about. So when you start a business, you don't have revenue, right, initially. Or if you're a seasoned entrepreneur, that mentality might change. You might actually create a product, do some pre-sales, generate some cash, and then you bootstrap it that way instead of seeking a angel investor or a VC to flood money into your business. And a lot of businessmen, investors, and VC, we should probably talk about that too. But when you start a business, you typically, like the way that I started my business, I built a prototype, then I built a product, then I kind of said, all right, whatever, let's see if somebody will buy it. Horrible way to do it. I think I got lucky with that product, okay? Mm-hmm. Typically what you want to do is test the market, figure out the pricing model, before you invest a lot of your time into, and only invest your, like, let's say if you're building a tech product, and if you are able to do it on your own, that's your time. Invest it, build it to support your test trajectory to figure out how much demand is going to be there. Initially, before you even start building, you can talk to your, like, the best thing to do is talk to your buddies, talk to potential customers, who you think the potential customers are, and say, look, I'm building X. It's supposed to have these features or provide this value. Not even features. Nobody cares about the features, right? It's like, I'm providing this value. Would you buy it when it's available, right? And at that stage, you might hear some of those people say, oh, yeah, absolutely. Some people will say, I don't understand what it is, or you're dumb, stupid, whatever. Don't waste your time. And when you hear those types of negative responses, don't waste your time, it's stupid, don't give up. It is very likely that those people just don't understand the value. So try to figure out a way to explain it better, to validate. And a lot of entrepreneurs kind of fall into this state, well, not state, but they live this life where a lot of people don't understand them, and that's normal, because the way that you're thinking about how to solve something just often doesn't resonate with majority of the population. If it does, great, but then you're probably risking somebody else coming up with that idea in the same way and solving it, right, and creating competition. So there has to be a healthy balance. Now, after those, like, let's say you survey 10 people, and like 5 out of 10 told you, yeah, I will buy this product. Or let's even say 7 people told you, yes, sounds amazing, sign me up. A lot of entrepreneurs make a mistake there, because they say, all right, since 7 people told me yes, I'm going to go build it out. And what really happens is, when you have this product ready, you go back to those 7 people and say, it's available, give me your credit card. And like 2 of them only give you their credit card. Because when push comes to shove, people are very they take huge steps back when it comes to money, right? So
Yeah.
the idea with pre-sales is actually, I think, is a smart idea. I do it with my businesses wherever I can to validate, right? Like, if 7 out of 10 people told me they need this, they will buy it, I tell them, all right, well, let's sign you up. Whether it's, and it doesn't matter how much you charge them. It could be $10, $1, or $100, right? Whatever, depending on your service or a product, you got to collect something, because if the value is large enough for the person to take the credit card out of their wallet and give it to you for that $1, that means a heck of a lot more than them just saying, yeah, of course, I'll buy it.
Yeah, they got to put some skin in the game.
Of course, yes. And when you are able to collect those funds from those individuals, that group, that already gives you a committed pool of people that are going to be buying your product, right? And even if the money that you've collected is not enough and you need to raise, when you go to a VC, you can say, look, I have 100 people who paid me $1 each or $5, whatever. I have a paid customer list. It's a very different conversation than when you're going, I just have this idea, and you're selling them on the idea. Because if you sell them on the idea, very difficult to do it without revenue. And if you're able to convince a VC or angel investor on your idea, they're most likely going to ask you for a much larger chunk of your company in exchange for those funds if you're pre-revenue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you just got to kind of staying on theme. You've always got to sell the outcome as well.
Of course.
You can't focus on the product and features. You got to sell what the product and features are going to bring in terms of value and things like that, like you said.
Yeah. What do you see in kind of your day-to-day?
My day-to-day, I think just the space I'm in, so it's a lot of business development, so marketing, sales, is I could sit there and say, oh, I'll set up your cold email systems, but people don't care about cold email systems. They care about the revenue that it's going to generate. So always kind of sell, like we said, sell the outcome, sell the value. Yeah, cold email is kind of the process of what we'll use to get there, but in these sales conversations, when you got to show value, that's where you kind of bring it in. The process is important, but the outcome's where the money is.
That makes sense. So since we're talking about cold email, I want to ask you a question because, if we rewind, what is it, like 10, 15 years, cold email was kind of the way to go, trying to figure out the email addresses because everyone was checking their emails. Kind of what trends do you see now? Like what is happening now? Because I feel like I have multiple emails. Some of them, it's just like literally just a garbage collection. Like I never check that email.
Hmm.
So kind of share your wisdom on kind of what you're seeing, what works.
Yeah. So there's cold email is definitely it's competitive. I wouldn't say it's. You could even say it's oversaturated in terms of just the amount of people that are sending cold emails. Like every company at least has some sort of system set up, even if it's just set up just to send, just to test it. But I think the way to break through the noise if you're running cold emails, you've got to be providing value up front. So it's really hard to sell through cold email depending on what your service is. Yeah, if you've got a cheap, low ticket product, then you have a chance. But if you're selling anything that's mid to high ticket, you've got to go kind of the relationship route. So what that looks like is maybe invite them onto a podcast, things like that, where you're able to build a relationship, you're able to get a conversation rather than just treating cold email as your sales mechanism. Because very rarely are people going to go through their cold emails that they know are cold emails typically and be like, yeah, I'm going to buy this, unless you provide an insane amount of value out front and you're able to communicate that. You've kind of got to lead with value, lead with a relationship rather than trying to sell.
Yeah, I mean, I see it on my end as well, so I echo that. And what I'm observing is the number of required steps or touch points with a cold outreach continues to grow. And what I'm seeing is by the time a prospect engages with a business, my business or the customers that I support, etc., they are probably like 60-70% down the educational route and learning about the brand that they're about to engage with without like, and I'll just maybe talk about me, about my business. So they're like 60-70% knowledgeable about TechNWeb, what TechNWeb does. They follow us on social media, they read our publications, things like that. Like they know more than what they used to like 15 years ago. Like, and the old way of like, what do you call them? Like pitch decks, right? Like, let me tell you about TechNWeb. It's a huge time waste because by the time they engage with you, they already know a lot of this stuff.
Hmm.
And that self-education is becoming more and more of a mainstream these days and a standard. So a lot of like what I see, a lot of the companies in the services space, they're switching to more like proactive education. And, I want to talk maybe a little bit about the blogs because I even think like blogs on your website, are good for SEO, but I feel like that's a dying way of doing things if we were to fast forward into the future. A lot of majority of the kind of touch points are moving into social media. Email, just like you said, it's oversaturated. I mean, we still check email, but the systems that we use for email are getting smarter and smarter about filtering out all the junk. So it's that, but you still use emails. Like, I get cold emails here and there too. I look at them, but majority of them are just crap,
Hmm.
horrible. And they always go into pitching me something without even understanding what is my pain point today.
Yeah, exactly.
So, with that being said, I kind of speculate and predict that in the near future, a lot of that stuff will move into social media platforms. And with social media platforms today, you can get much larger reach, and you got to figure out, or you got to continue to provide value on those platforms or whatever channels you're using, right? TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. Got to provide that free value to continue to educate and nurture your potential leads and have them raise their hand at some point and say, look, yes, I'm ready for you to help me now. Because the cold outreach is like you're forcefully trying to figure out, are they ready now? And are you a good fit? Hopefully, when I say you, I mean in general, right? In general, where cold outreach agencies or companies do their research and hopefully they identify target accounts, but then you don't know, or do those companies face the problem that you're hoping to help them solve? And are they educated to know about that problem? But with social media, it's a little bit different. I was just going to generalize it, social media, right? It's different because they self-identify, and I like that a lot.
For sure, yeah. And I think the stat is the average buyer nowadays needs a minimum of 7 hours of engagement with your business to trust you enough to buy from you. So, in 7 hours, but that's significantly reduced when video content is involved. So it kind of brings that putting a face to the brand. That's why personal brands and things like that are getting more and more important on social media. Kind of gives that social proof, things like video case studies, video testimonials, things like that. Because most of the time, you don't want to spend 7 hours of engagement on a call with somebody to get them to trust you enough to buy from you. So you want that kind of somewhere else. And that's where social media comes into play, like you said, kind of having that personal brand, video content, things on your website. Because even nobody's going to read 7 hours worth of blogs. They might if you've got some very good blogs, but that's tough. So you got to have some sort of video content, something where people can actually connect and almost resonate with you.
Yeah. And how do you see the, let me maybe rephrase this. I see that a lot more and more people using the AI tools like ChatGPT, et cetera, et cetera. I suspect that soon, like Google's of the world, they're like, I think they're even already seeing the impact now, right? Because a lot of people, like, if you need to find something, you just ask the ChatGPT to give you a response or result. And touching a little bit on SEO kind of as a term, I think will transition into something different, but the discoverability of your brand heavily depends on the ability for you to optimize your content for LLMs, right? For those large language models. And that's a huge shift that I'm seeing right now. Even for my brand, a while back, I started to see that we had leads which originated from ChatGPT, which was just like, mind blowing. It's it's mind blowing and it's fascinating and it's cool.
Yeah.
So, but to kind of your point that all of those videos and things like that, like I'm kind of interested to maybe brainstorm what will happen in the future, because the amount of content that we're now able to produce is increasing. And how do you get into a place where that ChatGPT is giving you the most valuable content right now? I mean, in some cases, like in most cases it does, but sometimes there's still some glitches. But in my opinion, like, you might have 10 videos or hundreds of videos on, I don't know, how to fix your lawnmower, right? But for that LLM to figure out how to serve your content, I think is phenomenal. I wanted to kind of see if you kind of dabbled into that a little bit.
Yeah, I can't say it's my wheelhouse, but I'm 100% on the same page as you. Is that SEO? I think Google is coming back into play. When you Google something, the first box that comes up is kind of their AI answer. But the past 6 months, I would say, I haven't Googled anything really. I go straight to ChatGPT. So I do think if somebody can crack that algorithm consistently, then they could probably make a lot of money. They could probably help a lot of people out.
Well, I mean, I think you'll be fascinated if you ask ChatGPT, how do I optimize my piece of content for LLMs? it will tell you. It will tell you how to do it. So
I might have to look into it.
yes, yes, cool. So what is your goal for 2025?
My goal for 2025? It's a good question. And I've gotten asked that before, and I typically don't have a great answer. I've obviously got some, in terms of business, got some revenue targets, but I think a lot of my goals this year are focused around just general well-being. I'm pretty active. I want to get in the best shape of my life, grow the business to the best point of its life, and continue to scale. I just want to be a happy man. Nothing too crazy over here, Igor.
All right, sounds good. And when you say healthy, I think I saw that you were coaching basketball, right?
Yeah,
Or
so I played basketball professionally. I coach some basketball on the side. That's kind of my release from the business world, but I still do that a few times a week.
oh, that's cool. Is there do you coach? I'm assuming kids. What age groups?
Yeah, so I was working with a program, so I kind of just got assigned to a small team. It was third through sixth grade,
Mm.
so young kids. But then I also play with men's leagues, and I'm all over the place.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. We so I have a son, 10-year-old. He's into soccer, but before I think we spent about a year, maybe year and a half early on when he was playing basketball. So he's a tall kid. So we just thought like basketball might be the right thing for him. And we got lucky that the very first season of basketball that we played, it was in a local YMCA where they have volunteer coaches.
Hmm.
And we got lucky because that season they had a basketball coach who was teaching high schoolers and like, high school and up. He also had a son similar age, and he basically volunteered to coach his son's group, and we were a part of it. And it was fascinating to watch because like even within the first season he was teaching those kids different plays, and he said like when I say four it means pass here and then shoot, right? When
Hmm.
I say five, do this play. And they basically developed, I want to say it was like a 8 play type of a strategy, or you can do 8 different plays. And it was fascinating to watch some of the later games because as kids learned those plays, he was just calling four, four, and the play developed. It was amazing. That stuck with me, as you can tell, and I think teaching kids strategy early on is phenomenal.
Hmm.
We were unlucky because after that season he left, and the other coaches obviously were not at that level. So we're like, oh my God, it's kind of a downer because he set the bar so high at
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
at
yeah,
that time for us. But anyways, so
yeah.
hopefully you're doing that stuff with your kids too.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's right in my wheelhouse. Right in my wheelhouse. And speaking of basketball, I told you about the book earlier, Relentless, about kind of Michael Jordan, Kobe, and all that. I think you give it a read, and I'm not sure what your son's reading level is, but I think that'd be something he'd have a good time reading as well once he gets into that age.
Oh, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And then I just remembered you also asked me about books and podcasts. One podcast that I listen to relentlessly is The Diary of CEO.
Yeah, I like
Uh,
that one too. I like that one
there's
too.
a lot of good ones. There's some kind of like it's hit or miss, but majority of them are hits, like really good ones. So
Hmm.
that's my favorite one.
Yeah, I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of that. And then, yeah, I dabble in podcasts. Usually just watch kind of long videos on YouTube rather than podcasts. But Simon Squibb, do you know who that is?
Mm-mm.
He's been doing some cool. He'll have like most recently like Patrick Bet David came on. He'll just give you like a 5 step framework of how he built his businesses, and he does like a sit down, just like a whiteboard session. So I don't know. For everybody listen, I'll be sure to tag all this stuff that we're talking about down in the description so you can go check them out as well.
I
But
love it.
Igor, I know you asked me what my 2025 goals were. I'm going to flip it on to you as our final question of the show. What's on the horizon for you? What's on the horizon for Tech and Web?
Well, since I have two businesses, I'm going to give you kind of answers for both. TechNWeb is at a stage where we're growing through acquisition mostly. My goal for 2025 and after is to continue that growth through acquisition, add more agencies, so to speak, that supplement my services or help me strengthen those services to keep growing that way. And I mentioned earlier that we work with wholesalers, distributors, and manufacturers to help them grow and prep for exit. Part of our strategy is also to potentially acquire those businesses when they're ready for an exit. I do want to build a portfolio of those businesses in the future. We have a couple right now, but looking to grow more. So that's on the TechNWeb side of things. And on the ideal data, so for that platform, goal for 2025, we're looking to launch a freemium version of that product. And we're looking to add more platforms that we integrate with that will help us eventually serve the valuable data for the business, where a business owner can go in and, get an idea where their business is and how do I grow it further? What do I need to do? And it's less of a kind of generic high level help, or you can go and generate leads, like none of that BS, but it's more strategic, more tactical, saying like, look, change the price of this product, or here's another product launch that you might want to consider. Here's what's selling, like those types of questions and answers.
Very cool. Very cool. And what's a personal goal? Last question. What's a personal goal?
Personal goal. So, I'm gonna kind of bring it up a level to my family because it's kind of weird. My goals are all business, but as a family, so I have two kids, and we just recently moved to Bay Area, so we're still kind of settling in the process of settling in. So settle in, I feel like my wife and both of my kids are already settled, but I want to kind of confirm at the end of the year that that's the case. And we're looking to make this place our home. So kind of checking that check mark. And on kind of going back to the kids, I love how quickly kids adopted to the new environment, new schools. I want to continue to see that, and I want to continue to see my kids grow and ask questions like we have. So, man, this is going to be another tangent. I'm sorry. So, as I grew up, or as I was raised in Russia, I was never taught much about money, like how to make money, what's the value of money, and all of that stuff. So that is something that I kind of discovered on my own very late in my life, I feel like. And late is maybe too strong of a word, because probably it's never too late. But I feel like if I would have known what I know now, like at the age of 20, I would be in a completely different place. And I want to make sure that my kids do have that foundation to be able to build their lives in the way that they want to live and spend their lives without needing to worry about, like having a 9 to 5 job that they hate. Like, I want to make sure that they never end up in that situation. So it's educating them. And on the flip side, from that, education, business knowledge and money knowledge, etc., just like you said, like you got to stay healthy, you got to stay active. So my son plays soccer. I'm spending a lot of time, or investing a lot of my time into his soccer games, and I want to kind of give him big safety net for him to try, fail, quickly learn, and see how far he wants to go with soccer. So that's my long-winded answer for you.
No, very cool. Some good goals on the personal level, on the business level. I'm sure 2025 is going to be a great year for you, and just the future is looking bright.
Yes, it will be an amazing year. And I know your year is going to be amazing too with all these podcasts that you're recording.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's good. We're pumping out some content, and I appreciate you taking part in it.
Sounds good. I appreciate it too.
And for everybody listening, I know we've already said we'll be tagging all the books, the podcasts, everything we've mentioned down below, but I'll also be tagging Igor's stuff. If you want to go check him out, you can connect with him, you can connect with his businesses. That'll all be down in the description. But Igor, once again, thank you for coming on.
No problem. Yes. Thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing me to have such a wonderful conversation with you. It was a very good brain teaser type of moments here.
No, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. But thank you for everybody tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.